The assembly resumes. Clerk.
Laying of papers and reports continues. Report of the Gambia's delegation to the 4th Ordinary Session of the 5th Pan-African Parliament, held from the period 27 June to 7 July 2022 in Midrand, Republic of South Africa. My Honorable Alaji Mbow, Head of Delegation and Member for Upper Salom.
Honorable Member, please go ahead and table your report.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. We, the 5-member delegation of the National Assembly of the Pan-African Parliament, PAP, here wish to sincerely thank the Speaker and the honorable members for the confidence and trust reposed in us, and equally acknowledge the efforts, support, and encouragement of the clerk and the entire staff of the National Assembly Service. Also, the delegation would like to recognize the warm reception and tremendous support of the Gambian Embassy in Pretoria, South Africa. Background. The Pan-African Parliament, which is the third organ of the African Union, was created in 2004 and comprises of 270 members selected by respective parliaments of the member states in accordance with the provision of Article 4, Subarticle 2, and 3 of the Protocol to the Treaty, establishing the African Economic Community relating to the Pan-African Parliament, which states each state shall be represented in the Pan-African Parliament by 5 members. At least one of shall be a woman, and such representation shall reflect the diversity of political opinion in each parliament or the national legislative body. Pursuant to the above mentioned and programs among themselves over election of the new PAP Bureau. Consequently, the African Union suspended the activities of the Continental Parliament in order to find a lasting solution to the deadlock of the PAP leadership. Thus, the resumption of parliamentary activities follows the Executive Council decision and subsequent policy decisions and consultations. We resolved the impasse and transpired among parliamentarians during the proceedings of the plenary on the 31st of May to June 1st, 2021, as the PAP was looking to elect the President and Vice President of the Bureau. Now, I'm going on page 4. The 4th paragraph. The Pan-African Parliament, the third organ of the African Union, has its Bureau and 11 permanent committees. The Bureau is composed of a president and 4 vice presidents, representing the 5 AU regions, and is responsible for the management and administration of the Parliament. The last paragraph. Subsequently, Honorable Chief Fortune Sefinia Chirombira from Zimbabwe was duly elected President of the Pan-African Parliament, succeeding Honorable Roger Nkodo Dang from Cameroon. He overwhelmingly won a hotly contested race to head the PAP Bureau, as the Northern Region's candidate declined to contest for the presidency, and he was therefore given the first vice president. In accordance with the PAP rules of procedure, each of the 5 regions form their respective caucuses, Bureau to be headed by chairpersons. Accordingly, Honorable Alhaji Mbo, head of the delegation, the Gambian delegation, is the new chairperson of the West African Regional Caucus Bureau. Honorable Femi Castellina Pamela Majudina of South Africa is the elected chairperson of the Southern African Regional Caucus Bureau. Honorable Janet Kabila of Democratic Republic of Congo is the chairperson of the Central African Regional Caucus. Honorable Senator Azidine Abdelmajid of Algeria is the elected chairperson of the North African Regional Caucus. And Honorable Terence M. Mondin of Seychelles is elected chairperson. Finally, the permanent committees finalized and adopted work plans in line with the AU 22 theme, which is strengthening resilience in nutrition and food security on the African continent, that is strengthening agro-food systems, health and social protection systems for the acceleration of human, social, and economic capital development. Now, I'm on page 7, in the middle of the page. Furthermore, the operational procedure and structures of the Pan-African Parliament were explained to the new parliamentarians. That is, during the orientation. All the new members actually went to an orientation, and because the Parliament consists of 270 members from 54 countries. So the plenary is the main decision-making body of the PAP. The Bureau is the political executive of the PAP. And then the 5 regional caucuses are the regional groups of the Pan-African Parliament, which play vital roles in making decisions at the plenary. Now, official opening of the that's on page 9. Mr. Gali Haru, acting clerk of the Pan-African Parliament, welcomed the honorable members to the chamber and read communication from His Excellency Macky Sall, President of the Republic of Senegal and incumbent chairperson of the African Union, who was in Germany for the G7 summit, but delegated His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, chairperson of the African Union, to open the 4th ordinary session of the Pan-African Parliament. Now, in page 11, in delivering the opening statement, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, chairperson of the African Union Commission, observed the presence of the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of the Republic of South Africa, the Honorable Parliamentarians, Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security of the African Union, members of the Diplomatic Corps, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. With great pleasure and solemnity, he greeted all in the most broad and rapporteur. In view of that, the caucus unanimously nominated the following to serve as the interim caucus: Honorable Muntaga from Ghana, Honorable Baloki from Togo, and Honorable Suaibu Toure from the Gambia as rapporteur. Now, considering the draft agenda for the regional caucus meeting was consensually considered and adopted by the honorable members of present. Nomination for the caucus representative in ad hoc committee for the election of the PAP Bureau. Nomination of candidates for election into the Bureau of the PAP. Accordingly, the West African Caucus nominated the following MPs as candidates for election to the Bureau of the Pan-African Parliament for the position of President and Vice President. Honorable Alajimbo of the Gambia was nominated by Honorable Salif Diao from the Gambia, Honorable Mr. Daoud Mamadou Martes of Niger, Honorable Bala Nala from Nigeria, Honorable Mariam Traore from Cote d'Ivoire, and Honorable Lucia Marie.
Parliament held from the period 27 June to 2nd July 2022 in Midrand, South Africa. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Any honorable member who wishes to take part in the debate may do so by show of their constituency tag. Thank you. Now the honorable may I now call the member for Brikama North and Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. May I also join my colleague who earlier on spoke before me, commending the Pan-African Parliament delegation that represented the Gambia in the Pan-African Parliament. I want to thank the Pan-African Parliament and the African Union in general through our delegation for the manner in which the issue surrounding the Pan-African Parliament had been resolved peacefully, and business is normalized in Pan-African Parliament the way it should be. And the Parliament is on the verge of, if not regaining the trust and confidence of the African Union. That is how it should be. It happened, as indicated in the report, in May-June last year's session, there was impasse surrounding the election of the Bureau members. Divergent positions emerged in the elections. A faction is with the opinion that it should be rotational, and another with the position that rotation, in as much as it's in the protocol, has to be applied to the rules of procedures that will require amendments, and which was not the case at that time. In 2018, in principle, there was agreement for there to be rotation in terms of the presidency in the Bureau, but we further agreed that it will require amendments before this can actualize. Unfortunately, that was not the case until the end of the tenure of the former president. Then we got ourselves in the elections, then the controversy and division came that yes, there should be rotation, but rotation will require amendments of the books, which was not the case. Now, can we take it that we go ahead with the elections and then make a commitment that this time around we should do the necessary amendments? This was where the impasse arose. The northern and southern, who never benefited or were not privileged at any time to lead the Pan-African Parliament, insisted that they are at disadvantage if we are to go for election, and therefore insisted on no election without rotation. When the ballot box was already put in place for delegates to come and cast their votes, only for one of the referees, the Electoral Commission member, to grab the ballot box, that there will be no voting without rotation. And then there were exchange of words and actions were taken. At the end, we could not resolve the matter. And there was that suspension on the activities of the Parliament. The matter taken to AU, and it took them up to 1 year, and finally resolved to conduct the election on the basis of rotation. I want to believe that this would be a learning point. Now that the Bureau is in place, what remains to be done, the necessary amendment that should qualify in principle for the rotation to be in place, should not fall sight of that anymore. And having made that, Honorable Speaker, I want to seize this opportunity to thank the President, Honorable Chief Chorombira, who was my candidate in 2018. The Gambia campaigned for him, unfortunately lost, and this time round, he succeeded in becoming the president. We thank him for being elected as the president. And we hope and pray, Honorable Jallo did put that the Parliament went under bad leadership. Of course, that could be the case. And then a lot of things that the Parliament used to benefit in, a lot of support that the Parliament used to be getting from donors, all gradually faded. I think this time around, under the able leadership of Chief Chorombira, that trust and confidence will be restored, and this continental parliament will not be a toothless bulldog. even whereas it does not have the legislative power, its advisory mandate will carry weight when it is put in the right perspective. Having commended and thanked the presidency and indeed the entire membership of the Bureau, I would also like to thank our Gambian delegations in one way or the other who were elected to the respective positions in the Pan-African Parliament, from the Bureau to the committees, and in particular the head of the delegation, who is now the chair of the West Africa Caucus. The position that then head of the delegation was acting at the time when we suffered the impasse. I had no doubt that this position will go to the Gambia, because Pan-African Parliament look onto Gambian delegation as people who are very principled, very committed, very honest, and very dedicated. That's what everybody in the whole of Africa will talk about the Gambian delegation. When they are in mid-run, a day they step in mid-run, they'll be there for business until the last day. Unlike other delegations, if they are there today, opening ceremony is done. If there is no issue of elections, next 2 days, they're gone. But the whole continental MPs believe and commended the Gambian delegation for their steadfastness and their commitment to duty. This has been recognized, and that's why any time when there are issues that need to divide people, they look onto the Gambia to try its best to bring the people together. Even in the absence of Honorable Sidia Jatta, I have no doubt that anyone from the Gambia will be put in that position. And if Honorable Mbo, head of the delegation, is given the opportunity to be the chair of the West African Caucus, I can tell you that that is spelling a lot about Gambia. That is telling us how Africa perceives Gambia at any continental fora. I thank you, honorable colleagues, for your steadfastness. I observe we also have important committees. The Women Caucus is also very important, and I want to believe the only female member is also a member of that committee. There are a lot of opportunities in terms of programs, in terms of capacity building trainings, and exposure. If the Honorable Minister can capitalize on that, she will tap a lot of experience through this very important caucus for the Gambia, not only for herself, but for the Gambia Parliament as well. On the other one, that is the Youth Caucus, I also realize we have Gambians in that committee as well, Honorable Sawa and others. Similarly, you can also venture and tap a lot from this particular committee. I'm not sure whether we have established Youth Caucus in the Gambia National Parliament. And then, if no, we can open the way for the Gambia National Parliament also to have our own established Youth Committee. There was that move, the 5th legislature. It suffered, could not go ahead. But now that you are in the Continental Youth Caucus, please make sure you endeavor that we have a vibrant Youth Caucus in the National Parliament. On that note, Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I want to seize this opportunity to thank the delegation for their timely and then their swift response in terms of presenting report anytime you have an engagement outside the Gambia. This is what is expected of all the international delegations. If you represent us, you need to report. You have set the pace, and I hope all other international delegations will follow suit to be reporting and at the right time. On that note, I thank you all.
Thank you, Member for Brikama North and the Minority Leader. I want to also congratulate the Gambian delegations and congratulate the leader for being elected as chair of the West African Caucus, and all of you for earning the Gambia that admirable name. Thank you very much in that continental parliamentary group. Now may I call on the member for Fonyibi Tankranai.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. I may have been silenced, but most may ask, why am I silenced? I can't in this situation. Because Pan-Africanism is not just a minor concept. It is a concept that should be inculcated into the heart of every African. And it is a good cost, a cost that calls for a celebration. On that note, I want to thank the Gambia delegates and for their achievements, especially Honorable Mbo, Honorable Suebu Ture, and Honorable Sao. For Africa is looking up to you, and Africa have great hopes on you. For we, as Pan-Africans, want to develop our continent. In what form? In any form that is best for Africa. We should try and inculcate the Pan-Africanism and its concept into every African child. I was listening to you keenly. You mentioned about the Gambia hosting the Pan-African Summit. I want to ask politely, what can the Gambia do for it to host the Pan-African Summit? What is expected of us? We work it together. And as you go to represent the Gambia, at the back of your mind, please know and understand that the Gambia is looking up to you. After coming from Pan-African Parliament, the expectation is for you not to come and sit down and fold your hands. Demonstrate it, at least, and inform the people what your achievements are. I went through everything, but actually I could not know what the aims and objectives are of Pan-African Parliament. But nevertheless, if you can also explain to us what the aims and the objectives of the Parliament is, it will be of utmost importance to us. We are happy and very happy indeed that we have a Pan-African Parliament, like any other parliament in the world. What is expected is for us to continue this tireless call for Pan-Africanism, and also for us to call for a compensation from those that did colonize us. For colonialism requires compensation. For they took our resources, we spent on them. They took everything from us and nothing. They left us naked as we are today. In fact, intellectually, we are robbed. This is why our contribution here in the Parliament at Arms is meaningless. Only what we learn from them, but we can't initiate. We can't pioneer anything. So we are calling for a compensation from those that colonize us. The Pan-Africanism is not a movement that is going to stop. It's going to continue as long as we live on the surface of the earth. We must call for unity in the African continent, and also we must call for this borderline. I don't know why, in fact, we have to go in for a visa before we go to South Africa. I think the Minister of Foreign Affairs will be definitely interested in this, so that as we are moving to South Africa, if you are in Africa, you are not a foreigner. You are in Africa. When you move in, you are not a foreigner. So you can only search for a visa if you're going to other parts of the world, but not Africa. And South Africa are part of the Pan-African Parliament. So still, when we want to go to South Africa, we have to look for a visa. I cannot understand that. I think we need to stress this issue, and members of Pan-African Parliament need to stress on this issue seriously. Because someone who is coming from the Arabian Peninsula can move freely into Africa without us asking him for a visa or anything. And if you're coming from Europe, America, or any other part of the world, you can come into Africa freely. We are the only people that are restricted in our own continent. It is sad. It is very sad. The fact is, Africans are not foreigners in Africa. Wherever you may come from, you are not a foreigner in your own continent. And it is the high time that we understand these realities. We all call for the unity of Africa. So much so that if you see that Fuller man coming from Guinea-Bissau, you don't label him as a foreigner. No. In Pan-Africanism, that is prohibited. It's not accepted. Let the black race come and love each other and embrace each other. In unity lies our strength, and therein we will move on as a continent. But if we bent on segregating, if we bent on dividing ourselves among tribes, among regions, among countries, so much so, if in fact Senegalese that are coming here are labeled as foreigners. So Africa are not foreigners in Africa, innit? And I want this to be put across so that everybody understands that Africans are not foreigners in Africa. So from now on, as you move out from this parliament, never see an African and call him a foreigner. Take note, please. And also, I want this to be very clear. If Africa have a problem with another guy from other continent, we should favor the African the most. But then this is not the case. Because those from Asia, those from Arabian Peninsula, they have money. They can bribe us and we easily accept them, rejecting our own. It's painful. This is why Africa is not moving as a continent. So when you move into Zimbabwe, move freely as an African. And when Zimbabwe guys come here, they should also move freely as Africans. So that is what should be inculcated. And I wish this day comes that we introduce, I don't know the book will be written in what form, but the book should be written so that every child that lives in Africa will be proud of being an African. And I thank you all for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you, the member for Fonyi Bintang Karanai. From now on, when you move out of this parliament, do not see, if you see any African, don't call him or her a foreigner. So I think that's a good point for the members of the Pan-African Parliament to take note. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. May I now call on the member for Central Badibu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just want to throw a few lights to thank our predecessors, those who were in the Pan-African Parliament before us. If you see all the success that we made within this short period is because of the effort of our predecessors, those who were before us. So we thank them in the name of Honorable Sidia Jata, though he's not with us here, but we have Honorable Alaji Dabo and Honorable Samba Jallo, who was also a Pan-African parliamentarian, and Honorable Alaji Mbo as our head of delegation. Honorable members, it was too challenging, as the report shows, that we found the parliament in serious disarray, but due to common understanding and the decision made by AU that resolved the entire conflict. Some may wonder why the article says there should be election and why AU is coming with this idea of rotation. Because that also creates balance. Because when you say election, sometimes election is not fair and majority is not always right, you know. So, but the problems were solved amicably, and Gambia, we happen to have a head of a delegation who is conscious, modest, dedicated to the cost. So Alaji Mbo, Honorable Alaji Mbo, was one out of those guys whom Pan-African Parliament trusted so much, you know, and they gave him this responsibility to be the president of Western Caucasus. So Honorable, congratulations once again for being the leader of West African Caucasus, and you have started well, may you end well too. Honorable members, the youth, I will talk about the youth as honorable member of Brikama North and the minority leader made mention in the report, the youth are captured. So henceforth, you know, Pan-African Parliament has a lot of passion for the youths, particularly youths and migration, youths and agriculture. So these are some of the things that are high, you know, on the agenda, and they will make sure that every activity to be done for youths to be mainstream. Now, coming to Pan-Africanism, and what do we have for Gambia or for the continent? Pan-Africanism or Pan-African Parliament has its own aims and objectives, which the chair will, you know, buttress on that. But it's about the unity of Africa. It's about how to develop Africa. It's about how to come together as one people. You understand? As you said, colonially, we were dominated by Arabs, Europeans, you know, and they put certain culture to us. They took away, you know, a lot of things from us. But with the coming of Pan-Africanism, restitution is in plan to make sure that things that are taken from Africa to come back. High time to promote our culture, the way we talk, and our language is key. That's why Swahili, you know, will be soon recognized to be a language that will be a lingua franca. So, but as I said, charity begins at home. What do we do for ourselves in Gambia here? You know, the youth should come up, and we should try to make sure that we promote our local language. As you said, in this parliament, we only speak English. If you speak, you know, other language, not English, is seen as not parliamentary. So I think henceforth, we need to come up to see how to make sure that we have our local language. If we cannot have all, but the key ones that could be understood by all should be used in the parliament. So I thank everybody for your kind attention, and the hope and confidence that you have in us, inshallah, will live up to expectation. Thank you.
Thank you, member for Central Badibu. May I now call on the member for Tumanna constituency. Tumanna.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I am very much delighted to thank the Gambian delegation for their tremendous achievement, what they have registered according to some of them within this short period. We will of course thank the fifth legislature, the delegation of the fifth legislature that were there before you guys, before you people. I think they have laid the foundation where you stood to have these achievements. Okay, about the suspension of the PAP activities as a result of that rancor that happens there, I believe is normal. It's normal. Sometimes we have to, some misunderstanding must have come through. But the most important thing is we have to come together and solve it. And because of that, I will thank the AU and the African heads of state, their intervention, and come up with the idea of rotating the leadership. I think that is a good move, and of course a very welcoming one. The rotation is very important. You see that everybody will feel yourself part of the leadership. The point that made me to raise my tag is the Parliamentary Youth Caucus. I think one of my colleagues raised whether we are working on that. Yes, I will say on behalf of my leaders, we are working on that. We've just held our last meeting on Friday, but I think communication will come through so that you know that we are working on it. On the visa issue, it's very important. The Foreign Affairs of the Republic of the Gambia should work on this so that there will be no visa between Gambia and South Africa. And of course, shorten the routing, because that also is very, very important. So from here to South Africa is very long, not actually with the distance but of course the routing that you take to get yourself there is very, very far. So the foreign ministry need to work on that. And of course, our delegation also, I don't know whether you people will have any take on it. Okay, I have to congratulate all of the members again for being in the PAP committees, because these committees are very, very important, I think. So if you manage to be in the PAP committees, I think you need to be congratulated. And for that being the case, I say congratulations to you all. Honorable Chair, thank you very much for giving me the floor.
Thank you, Member for Tuman. In the absence of any other contributor, may I now call on the mover of the motion to respond to issues raised and to wind up the debate. Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And thank you very much, Honorable Members. And also thank you to the delegation of the Pan-African Parliament, and then our clerk, Councillor when with us, and in record time, he was able to produce such a report, which is really commended. Now, I think most of the members really is about commending the members and our stand as far as Africa is concerned. And for the member for Dankunku, the issue of the dispute really is more than Article 12. Because Article 12 itself is clear, but what follows Article 12 is the one that actually causes discrepancy. Because we are told that there shall be a bureau of the Pan-African Parliament which shall be elected on a rotational basis among the 5 regions of the EU. Then, on number 2, it says the Pan-African Parliament shall elect at its first sitting by a secret ballot from among its members and in accordance with rules of procedure, the President and 4 Vice Presidents representing the 5 regions of the EU. The election shall be in each case by a simple majority of the members present and voting. At least 2 of the bureau members shall be women. You see, this, along with many, actually has caused that confusion about this rotation and how. What some of the members, like myself, were saying since last year, like we want to do rotation, but we must have the legal backing or the legal framework on which we're going to do the rotation. Because if you look at AU itself, the parent organization, they are not doing that. Musa Faki has been there for too long. So if the parent organization or the parent body is not actually doing this rotation, then you expect other organs to do the same thing, there'll be some issues. And again, some of us, like some people like me, that's really what we are trying to say. Let's start from the top. Let's ensure that it's done right, and then we go back to the other organs, comprised about 11, and that brought some of the issues. But finally, we were able to put it aside and then solve it. Now, in terms of insurance, he's right, because actually I carried my insurance until 2020. But the issue, perhaps I agree, is about leadership issue. The insurance budget actually has been removed from our budget. And it's irony that the AU budget actually comes to the PAP. We debate on the budget, make recommendations, but when it goes back, our recommendation doesn't make anything. So essentially, I think it's an issue of leadership issue, but hopefully, going forward now, we have the right people in the right places to ensure that we get those insurance back in place. The member for Bintang Karanai, you know, I'm happy that you are saying Africans in Africa cannot be called foreigners. I like that. So which means let's stop calling the economic troops in the Gambia foreign troops. I agree with him completely, and I told many members here, I said, I don't like you calling a Senegalese or a Nigerian or a Ghanaian a foreigner.
Observation.
So I agree.
Observation. Allow me to observe you.
No observation.
Allow me to observe you.
No observation.
Observation. Honorable Chair.
No observation. Honorable Speaker, just to move right along, I quite agree, because the notion of the African Parliament is about one Africa, one voice. That's really what we are trying to do. One Africa, one voice. And again, perhaps we need to ensure that the African passport that actually has been given out, I think maybe they need to extend it so that every African can have the African passport instead of having a Gambian passport or a Senegalese passport or a Nigerian passport. So we have one passport for the African continent. Also, the traveling is not easy, and not only the Pan-African parliaments, but also civil servants going to South Africa for various things. They will have to go to Dakar to apply for a visa, come back. When the visa is ready, they go back and collect it. That takes so much time and energy and money. So I think perhaps we need to make a resolution on this one as well, because we are aware, as members of parliament of the PAP, that the South African government actually has given us an MOU to sign, so that those Gambians with diplomatic passports or service passports would not require a visa to go to South Africa. Maybe we need to make a resolution to ensure that the Minister of Foreign Affairs signs this before the end of this year, because this MOU was done for almost 2 years now. Now, essentially, I think that's all we have in terms of clarification. And once again, I want to thank everybody for the comments you've made and to ensure that we do the right thing. Hopefully, Honorable Speaker, other international delegations will present their reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Member for Upper Salum. I want to thank you sincerely and all those who contributed to this very important motion. And I hope that the advice from the Honorable Member for Fonyi Bintang Karanai and that of the Member for Upper Salum will go down well. I'm sure the Honorable Member for Central Badibu is taking note of all those things. Thank you very much. Now, be it resolved that this Honorable Assembly do adopt the report of the Gambia's delegation to the 4th Ordinary Session of the 5th Pan-African Parliament held from the period 27 June to 2nd July 2022 in Midrand, South Africa. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. I want to thank you, and be resolved that this August Assembly do stand adjourned until Tuesday, 27 September 2022 at 10 a.m. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. The Assembly stand adjourned until Tuesday, 27 September 2022 at 10 a.m.